Hey everyone, and welcome to my walkthrough for P5 Savage, where we're going to be fighting Proto Carbuncle. Now, before we get started with the fight, you want to take some spread positions, intercardinals and cardinals for all players. We'll also want 2 groups of 4, and we'll also be wanting 4 groups of 2. Once you've got all of that sorted, we can get started with the fight. First thing that he's going to be doing is a Raid White AoE, so as per usual, you can put up some shields before the pull, so that you of course are not wasting any delicious DPS. So a couple GCDs into the fight, he's going to do Sonic Howl. This is a Raid White AoE that doesn't hurt that much, so it doesn't need that much mitigation, but the second follow-up AoE, Ruby Glow, this one does hurt a fair bit. So if you need some extra mitigation that only lasts for one instance, like a Shake It Off for example, try and use it on the second hit. Topaz Stones are going to be dropping 2 stones, and it's also going to be dropping 2 poison tiles. Now you can't see it that well, but the second poison tile is over here on the 2 marker, just behind that. Very simple, this is kind of like in normal mode. These tiles are going to be exploding in their quadrant, so the entire quadrant is unsafe, and the poison tiles are going to be expanding, so you need to make sure that you're safe from them. Now, because the poison tile dropped here on 4 and 1 on 2, means that we need to go into the corner on 4 right here, because this tile on 2 is going to expand towards the middle, and of course the one here on 4 is also going to expand downwards. So this is not going to be the safe tile. 4 is our only option here. There are a couple of different patterns here, but you'll just learn them as you get along. This is definitely the most annoying one, as you need to be careful of the poison tile expanding as you run towards the safe spot, and this is definitely the smallest safe spot that you can get as well. Very important that you not get hit by the poison, because it does inflict a very potent poison dot on you that will require quite a bit of healing resources to make sure you stay alive. Then we get Venomous Mass. This is a double tank buster, so the first hit will apply a poison tick on the main tank as well as a physical vulnerability up. It's also an AoE, so you need to make sure that you're away from the main tank. And then the second hit, Toxic Crunch, is just going to be another tank buster that puts another set of poison onto the tank that takes it. You can use an invuln on this, but then the poison tick is just going to be doing ridiculous damage, so highly recommend that you use a tank swap for this. Then we go into the Poison Puddle mechanic. This is where you need your 4 groups of 2, so you can see the poison clouds coming out of the puddles. There's 2 poison clouds signifying that you need 2 people in them. And they'll also have a timer counting down, as you can see right here, for when they go and explode. Now, whenever you stand inside the poison puddle, you will be taking poison damage, so your healers, make sure you put up some shields for this, because it's actually quite painful if you stay in there for a long time, which is also why you want to wait until as late as possible before you jump in. Now, if there is only 1 person inside, it will explode for damage, basically killing the person that's in there. Even a tank, I think, will just get one shot by it, unless they use some heavy mitigation. And if you also do not take it with 2 people and it does explode, it will also spawn an ad. And if you don't kill the ad in time, it's fairly tanky, it will also deal Raid White damage and give everybody a damage down. So essentially, make sure that there's 2 people inside of each puddle, because otherwise people are going to die and you're going to be getting Raid White damage as well as damage downs. So you don't want that to happen. So that's why everybody is going to be pairing up inside of these, and then there is actually no damage. The puddles don't explode if they are taken correctly. Another tank buster, Venomous Mass, so make sure that you are away from the main tank as they take that AoE damage, and then tank swap for the second hit, Toxic Crunch. Then we go into another Raid White AoE, so put up some mitigation. Ruby Glow is again going to be spawning the reflective walls across the arena. This time we only have 1 of them. Topaz Stones is again going to be spawning a Topaz Stone as well as a Venom Stone. And then we go into Double Rush. Now, Double Rush, you dodge very simply, you stand behind the boss's hitbox, so just behind the middle of the boss is where you need to stand. Important to know, because this mechanic comes back towards the end of the phase, and then you need to make sure that you, of course, stand behind the boss, as you do not have the arena to help you that time. So stand behind the boss, then he's going to be rushing to one of the sides. You can also use Surecast on the second one, because this is going to be a knockback. The second time he rushes, you can't avoid it this time because he's dashing across the whole arena. And if you're not using Surecast for this, you really need to stand inside the middle of the arena or you're gonna get knocked away. So you need to stand in the middle and then you still get knocked all the way into the corner. Now for this one we had to move over because of course this entire half of the arena is going to be exploding because there's a crystal there. So that is why we moved over slightly. It is possible that the boss jumps the other way around, like for example over here, that he is facing the right side, and then we just stand on the left and we stay on the left because the crystal is on the right. All that you need to do is when he starts his rush, you stand behind the boss, and then after he does the first rush, you need to make sure that you're on the opposite side of the crystal. You have plenty of time to adjust for this, so just make sure that you do not get hit by that explosion. Make sure that you heal up, because there's going to be another Sonic Howl, which is that other Raid Bite AoE. And then we are done with that mechanic. After this, we're getting another Ruby Glow, so again, put up some mitigation, as this will be spawning the reflective walls again. And then we have a bunch of Topaz clusters. Now for this one it's a little bit different. They are going to be dropping in 4 different sets, indicating 4 different save spots. So you need to remember where they are dropping, and you need to remember the order of the save spots. So in this case, we have them dropping on 4 as well as on 2. So that means that 1 and 3 are our first save spot. Then we have our second set spawning, which was on 3 and on 1, so that means that 4 is our second save spot, and I guess technically 2 as well. Then we have a set spawning on 4 as well as 2 as well as 3, so 1 is the save spot. And then we have a set spawning on 4 and 1, so that means that 3 is our save spot. Oh, and 1 on 2 as well, so 1 is our final save spot. So first explosion goes off, second save spot, third save spot, and then the 4th save spot. This is a fairly difficult mechanic to read sometimes, but if you have someone that is very confident in reading this mechanic, you can probably get away with putting like a Dorito triangle on their head, kind of like people did Zodiark Extreme at the beginning of the expansion as well. It was just follow the Dorito. You can probably do it here as well. Then we go into another double tank buster, so make sure you're away from the main tank, because as you can see our Bard got a little bit too close. And he, of course, got killed by that. And then we are going into a spread and a stack mechanic. Now this one has 2 different versions. We have Venomous Squall, which is going to be spread into stack. We have Venom Surge, which is going to be stack into spread. Now between these 2 mechanics, there's also going to be puddles appearing underneath all of your players. So the way that we do this is we spread first. After the spread damage goes out, we go middle to drop our puddles, and then we spread into our positions, or in this case we stack for our final hit, so that we're all away from the danger. Then Claw to Tail. This one again has 2 different versions. Claw to Tail means he's gonna first do a bunch of claw attacks in front of him and then do a tail smack behind him. If it is tail to claw, he'll first do a tail smack behind him and then do a bunch of slashes in front of him. So just look at the name of the ability and react accordingly. The claw happens a couple of times, so you need to wait until he does this big hit at the end, and then you move over for the 1 tail smack. You'll see what this mechanic looks like the other way around later into the fight. Then we have him being hungry. As you can see, there's a gauge here on the right, and this ticks down to where he is becoming hungry, and he needs to eat something. So we need to go feed our carbuncle, which we'll have to do after this mechanic. So this one has 2 different variations. Now the pattern that you're seeing here is going to be double counterclockwise. There's also a pattern where you need to go clockwise and then double counterclockwise. So you need to identify which pattern it is. In this case, it's just going to be double counterclockwise. So we stand next to the second save spot, and then we just start rotating counterclockwise, and then we can just chill over here on our 3rd save spot, or well, our 3rd marker, I guess you could say. And then we spread into our groups. Now for this one, exactly the same as before, you need 2 people in each puddle to not make them explode. But the problem is, the boss is hungry, so we need to feed him. So we are going to be intentionally failing one of the puddles to spawn an ad, so that that ad can get eaten by the boss, so that he's not hungry anymore and that he doesn't kill people anymore. So what you want to do here is you want to have 2 people in each of the puddles except the tanks. Now the reason being is that when a puddle does not get taken, it will do a big AoE damage on the closest person to it. So ideally you just have a tank stand next to that puddle and you have them use an invuln. Reason why an invuln is good is because if a person gets hit by the previous mechanic, they get stunned. So if one of your tanks gets stunned there, the other tank can take over the invuln so that you can still get through this mechanic. Like for example, here we're going to have some people dying because when people get stunned, the first person that gets stunned gets eaten and they will die. And then of course, like for example, our bard is now alone in his puddle, so he's gonna die as well. And then our warrior here is also down, so he couldn't press cooldowns, so he's also gonna die. The AoE that's coming from this puddle is shared damage AoE. You can have like 4 people take it, like for example, you have 2 tanks here, 2 healers here, and then 4 of your DPS inside this puddle and make them stand closer to it. But honestly, the easiest way to do it is just have one of your tanks stand close to it and have them press an invul. Definitely the best way to do it in my opinion, although there are other options. So after this, you're gonna see a bunch of people dying. Unfortunately enough, because we only had 1 person in the back one, it spawned a second ad. And then of course, we had a DPS player getting eaten by the boss as well. You can see him jump over here, eat the ad, and then he gets full satiety meter again, meaning that he's not hungry anymore. And then you saw the ad over here on the right explode as well for a lot of rate-wide damage, as well as giving everybody a damage down. So definitely not ideal. Sonic Howl, rate-wide AoE, doesn't do that much, but it's going to be followed up by Ruby Glow again, which does do a whole lot more damage. And then of course, we also get our reflective shields. Topaz stones, this time around, we have a few too many stones to actually do this mechanic properly, but there's going to be 2 healer stacks here. Venom Pool is going to be targeting both of your healers with a shared damage AoE that will also drop a poison crystal. Essentially what you want to do here is you want to identify which of the 2 sides only has 2 crystals. I'm on the wrong side because this one has 3, as you can see, but I'm going to quickly run over, and then we drop our poison puddles on these 2 crystals, which will turn them into poison crystals. So now one of the 2 sides is safe. Then the boss is going to be dashing to another side of the arena, and he'll either do Raging Claw, which means that you have to get behind him, or he'll do, I believe it is Topaz Beam. It's the exact same thing as he does in normal mode, where he'll shoot a laser beam in front of him. If he does the laser beam, you need to stand behind the protective shield, because the laser beam will get reflected back onto him. If he does the claw, you need to get behind him, as the claw does not get reflected. So that is why we are standing behind him right here. And then of course, be wary of the poison as your tanks get into position for a tank buster again, so make sure that you are away from the main tank as they take their AoE, and then tank swap for the second hit Toxic Crunch. And then we get ready for another raid-wide AoE, so heal up, shield up as necessary. And this is where we are going to be needing our 2 different groups. So we get our arena, Topaz Stones is going to be dropping 2 crystals and 2 venom puddles. And you need to start on the quadrant that has the venom puddle. Now the way that we did this is we had one group take the 1 and 2 markers as their initial starting position. We had a second group take the 3 and the 4 marker as their starting quadrants. You'll want to start somewhat close to the middle so that both of your healers can put up mitigation for this mechanic, as it is going to be another spread into stack mechanic like we saw from before. So we stand in the middle so that everybody can get some mitigation. Then as the poison starts expanding, we go to the edge of the arena so that we can start the dodge over here. You wait for the explosions to go off, then you move into the other quadrant. Venom Squall was casting, so everybody spread out. After the spread AoE, we move middle so that we can, 1, get heals and shields to have some HP again to survive the stack, but also so that we can drop our magic hammers. So magic hammers drop, we dodge those, and then we stack together. Now for this one it was Venom Squall. Venom Squall was going to be spread into stack, but because that mechanic has two versions with Venom Surge, where it is going to be stack into spread, I would not be surprised if that is also a possibility here. We've never seen it in all of our pulls, but we also don't have a big enough sample size to completely rule that out. So do be wary, maybe it can also be stack into spread. Then we have another 4 poison puddles, so go back into your groups, find your partner, and then go stand inside of the poison puddle before it expires, so that no ads spawn. Then we have tail to claw, so this time around we start in front of the boss, we wait for the tail smack, and then we move to the back to dodge the claws. Another venomous mass tank buster, so again away from the main tank, and then tank swap. Then we have another Sonic Howl, so again, light mitigation. The second AoE does more damage, so there is Ruby Glow, which will once again spawn the reflective shields. This time around we're going to be doing the same thing, where there is no safe quadrant, so we need to use the Venom Pool, that is the healer stacks, to transform one of the quadrants that has 2 crystals and turn them into poison puddles instead. Now, I guess it technically kind of matters where you drop them for the next mechanic, but if you don't care about that, you can just use Surecast and Arm's Length, then it doesn't matter where you drop them, because the boss is going to be doing double rush here, so I guess technically you want to take them where both of the poison puddles would be at the edge of the arena, so that you have space to get knocked back into the corner. But if you drop them like we did, you can just use Arm's Length and Surecast, and then it honestly doesn't matter where you drop them. This is a much easier way of handling the mechanic. So double rush, make sure you stand behind the boss for the first hit, and then you press Surecast for the second hit. And again, make sure that you're also avoiding the poison puddles as they are expanding. Another Venom Mass, so make sure you're away from the main tank as they take the first hit. And then tank swap for the second hit. And then we're going to have a spread into stack. So this time around you'll see what the other way looks like. So first we have Sonic Howl, so make sure that you put up some mitigation for this. Then heal up and mitigate for Venom Surge. So this one is going to be starting with a stack, and then we are going into a spread afterwards. So stack left and right of the boss, go middle to drop your puddles, heal up, shield up, and then spread out for your spread AoEs. Now fortunately enough, we didn't have enough mitigation here, so a few people ended up dying. Tail to claw, so get in front of the boss. After the tail smack, move to the back. And then we have another tank buster, so we once again get away from the main tank as they take their AoE tank buster. And then tank swap for the second hit. And then we get ready to go into the Soft Enrage. So Soft Enrage is very simple. He's basically just going to be doing a bunch of AoE spam. And at the end of the AoE spam, he is going to be, well, just enraging and killing everybody. So as you can see here, he's just AoE spamming, and he basically does that for a little while until he casts his actual Heart Enrage. But that is going to be the whole fight. If you have any more questions about it, then feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Of course, at the moment, both me and my team are still progging the rest of the fights, so we'll be busy with that, but when I do find some time, I'll definitely try and answer your questions to the best of my ability. But that's gonna do it for me, so I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.